This is a presentation of the Sports Source Digital Network, presented by Hearthside Bank.
Welcome into the Sports Source Digital Network. I'm John Pennington, joined by Tyler Ivens right here. Tyler, I was going to talk about this topic with somebody else, and I thought, oh, wait a second, this is Tyler Ivens' baby. As soon as Diego Pavia was announced that he was coming to Vanderbilt and bringing Jerry Kill was coming along with him, and the offense, it was him and an offense coordinator, I believe, that came from New Mexico State. You've been on that saying, guys, I've seen this kid play. Trust me, he's going to be good there. And you were right. So I thought, that's the guy we need to have in to talk about Diego Pavia. I have heard a lot of Vol fans say, well, because I asked the question on the television show a couple weeks ago, how many times have we seen a small school guy transfer in and starting quarterback in the SEC and he thrives? And there aren't a lot of examples, but the one I kept getting thrown at me was Diego Pavia. Pavia. And I thought, okay, I'll give you that one. That's a good goal. If you are wishing for the best in terms of Aguilar's impact at Tennessee, it would be natural to look at Diego Pavia did it.
Yeah.
Is that a fair comparison for Joey Aguilar, however, because of the things I just mentioned?
Yeah, it's a really good question, but unfortunately I do not believe the comparisons are there fully. To an extent, in some categories, yes. Diego Pavia's story is very interesting for those of you who do not know. Just briefly, 3-time New Mexico State wrestling champion. The guy is just a bulldog, tough as nails mentality. Yeah. But you kind of highlighted it there. What makes Diego Pavia so good at what he does is that the relationship he has built with who he came with from New Mexico State to Vanderbilt. I think Clark Lee probably wouldn't say this in front of a camera, but Clark Lee's job was saved in Nashville because of the play of Diego Pavia and Jerry Kill. The reason why I don't believe that you can compare the two to the fullest of extent is because Diego Pavia is just that. He's a bulldog. He's a gamer. When he goes out there, the coaches allow him to call his own number. He's very good at reading the field. One NFL scout said, look, this guy will never be an NFL quarterback because of his size, but we wish we could take his brains and his eyes because the way he sees the field, even with how short in stature that he is. Yeah. Pavia is one of the, and I would highly encourage people if they want to get more on Pavia quickly, and I know it's easy to say this because they had the win against Alabama. Watching the All-22 film that you can find on social media on how well he checked out of a lot of the plays that he read from Alabama's defense, it's the IQ. If this guy was 4 inches taller, probably another 11 pounds, 12 pounds heavier, and he had another 10 to 15 yards on his arm, he's a number one overall pick. But unfortunately, he doesn't match up in a lot of those categories.
Yeah, and see, the interesting thing to me is, if Joey Aguilar were bringing the offense from Appalachian State, and bringing the offensive coordinator from Appalachian State. That's kind of the bonus that Pavia had that came a long way. And Jerry Kill, who was a very successful head coach at Minnesota, had the seizure issue, epilepsy he deals with, has the seizures, had to leave Minnesota. Then he went to New Mexico State. He goes to Vanderbilt with Pavia and with I forget the offensive coordinator's name, that's on me. But anyway, you got all those guys that went to Nashville together. That gives him a leg up that Aguilar isn't going to have. And I know Aguilar's run up-tempo before. That's good. And I know that, it's kind of it's not a veer and shoot, but there are a lot of people who think, well, it's a pass-happy kind of system, so it's got to be the same thing. It's not the same as bringing your offense with you from New Mexico State. So when I look at the Pavia comparisons, I think absolutely that is the goal. If you could look at it and say, hey, if I asked the question, and I did, show me a guy that came from a small school and hit it, all right, there's the one. Unfortunately, I think he benefited from not just coming in and stepping into somebody else's system and having to pick it up. And he also got a spring practice before he ever played, which Aguilar doesn't have. But I definitely think that is the goal. If you're a Tennessee fan and you're saying, what are my hopes? Pavia is the example. He came in, hit immediately, and was gangbusters for Vanderbilt.
The results, you would love for those to be there. Yep. The identity of their games, you better hope it's not there. As I already mentioned, his high school wrestling days, he is a ground pound, put you, submit you, I will take first downs. If you go back and you watch a lot of their play calling, by the way, they were one of the highest in time of possession last year, Vanderbilt was, because Pavia's game is bleed the clock, 3rd and short, I'm going to find the gap and I'm going to go run up the middle. Yeah. He was broken by the time that they played in Nashville. They got out early, 14-0. But that guy absolutely, the fact that they were able to get to a bowl game and beat Georgia Tech and he was to play, it blew me away. He got a 13th game out of that season.
Tough as can be.
You don't want Joey Aguilar to play the Diego Pavia game. Are you hoping that he goes to the table and he pulls a lottery ticket and it comes out a winner? Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. The results, don't mimic the game, the
Exactly.
style of play. And again, I think that's going to be tough too when you consider he doesn't have the advantage of Clark Lee at Vanderbilt saying, "What offense do you want to run? Come on in and run it.
Save my job and step aside."
Exactly. Heupel's got an offense. Aguilar's having to fit the system.
Bingo.
Whereas they made the system, it was Pavia's system. They just brought it in.
Us over at the Animal, we had the opportunity to catch up with Josh a couple of weeks back, and usually Josh is kind of guarded with some of his comments because he knows there's usually a microphone going or a camera that's always on.
Right.
He was not shy at all to say, Joey's on campus. He's been at the house the last couple of nights. We've been going over things. So the fact that Joey Aguilar has shown up on campus and he doesn't have classes, doesn't have homework, this is his job.
Yeah.
This is his career, and he's going nightly or semi-nightly over to Heupel's house, and they're doing extra film sessions. To say that the tempo, we may or may not see it on the football field, it's definitely there to try to get Joey Aguilar sped up on what Josh wants to do this year.
Yeah, and that's one last thing, because anytime we start talking about Joey Aguilar, as a matter of fact, I wasn't there on Sunday's show. You guys did a good job with Josh Ward hosting, and it turned into an Aguilar discussion in one of those segments, and I got the comments, emails, saying, well, I guess all the other guys should just transfer out since you've decided it's Joey Aguilar and Merklinger and McIntyre don't have a shot. We haven't decided that. Josh Heupel's the one that said a couple of weeks ago when somebody asked him on a radio show, let's talk about the Nico situation, and he said, let's call it, he didn't say let's talk about the quarterback situation. He said, let's call it the Agalar situation. Don't call it the Nico situation, call it the Agalar situation. For people who don't grasp this, I think Aguilar is going to get the first bite of the apple. Sure. They want him to be the starter. Doesn't mean he's going to be. I think there should be an open competition. Maybe there will be, maybe there won't be. I think they will have a sort of competition, but you can't tell me he's not getting a half-step head start in that competition. I just think they didn't bring him all the way across the country to not give him the first bite of the apple, in my opinion.
If he's not taking snaps with the ones right now, it's a bigger problem. But it's not a problem at Tennessee right now. Joey Aguilar needs to be getting as big a slice as he needs, or the biggest bite of the apple, as you put it.
Yes, that's not the media deciding who the starting quarterback is going to be. I think the writing is on the wall. You went and picked this guy. I think he's probably the number one guy. And you've had people at UT and people who've seen it who've said, well, Merklinger isn't ready yet. McIntyre, of course, is brand new. I have argued that I've heard a lot of quarterbacks weren't ready, and then they got thrown into the fire and they look ready. I remember Peyton Manning and Brandon Stewart weren't ready. And then Jerry Colquitt goes down. Todd Helton says, I got to think about baseball. I've taken too many hits. By the end of that year, Peyton Manning looked ready. Yeah. And Brandon Stewart goes on to Texas A&M, doesn't look terrible there. So there have been guys, Harrison Bailey, who weren't ready. There are other guys who have been, in terms of Casey Clausen, true freshman, in terms of Eric Ainge, in terms of Brent Schaefer. You've had guys who were ready that you didn't necessarily think it going into the season. So I'm not about to say Merklinger and McIntyre don't have a shot, but clearly Agalar is the leader in the clubhouse.
Earning the opportunity. Everybody gets a chance, but right now the leg up, it needs to be Joey Aguilar.
Tyler Ivens, thank you very much. Folks, if you like this kind of content, what you need to do is click the notify button so you'll get a ping whenever we do something like this. Subscribe so you'll know when we post up right here. And also click the like button. And if you disagree with us and you want to say, McIntyre, Merklinger, that's fine. It's the comment button. You can leave a comment for us. We appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time on the Sports Source Digital Network.